So as I work in this next part of the painting, I'm going to talk through a little bit about what I did up in the upper part. What you see there, in the background is just very simple. I mean, I'm just blotting in the colors that I'm using, the blue and the white, and I'm making my sky. So this particular painting is I guess you could call it a cityscape. It's not from the perspective of the complete city. You're just looking at the storefronts of the city, of a few buildings in my hometown. And so my sky, obviously the background, I wanted to get that in before I laid in the foreground of the buildings that I had chosen. And nothing unique in that technique. I'm just taking the two colors and I'm blotting them in very simply. I'm not mixing them much. I'm just letting the colors mix as it goes onto the canvas or the board. Obviously, I don't use canvases. Very rarely do I use canvases. I actually use this board that I buy from Home Depot. It's relatively cheap. It's about maybe $5, $4 and something per board. It comes in this size, 2 foot by 4 foot. I like that size because you can cut it. You can take your skill saw or hand saw, and you can cut it to whatever size you want. It's very simple, very easy, nothing major. What I did here that you can't see is I went into the board and drew out a basic outline of what I'm dealing with the front-facing part of the buildings. And now I'm just taking some color and dabbing that in because I'll eventually work other painting over top of this color, and this is my background of that particular part of the painting. So nothing too elaborate here or crazy. Pretty simple. I try to make things pretty easy for me when I'm painting. I don't get very lost in the details. I used to do a lot of very detailed drawings, and it became such work that I didn't really like drawing and painting for a while. I kind of gave up on it. But so what I did was I changed that up a little bit. I still incorporate some detail from time to time, but I don't get as crazy as I used to, and maybe at some point I'll upload some of my old stuff so you can see how detailed I might get. I used to use a lot of pen and ink and colored pencil, and with the colored pencils I would get really detailed and spend like 6 months doing a drawing. And that would be maybe a 16 by 20 size, so not real small, but again, it was such work that I grew tired of doing that. So I came back to painting mainly with acrylics, sometimes with oil. It just depends on how I feel. I don't mind either one. I don't choose either one in particular. I just stuck with acrylic more than I did with oil. But anyways, coming back to this, I'm blocking in each one of these areas that I will eventually put the storefront or the window, to the storefront. And I'm using a black right now because I kind of have an idea as to what I'm going to do with reflection and with lighting, and I wanted a pretty dark background more than I want a clean color. So for now, very simple, nothing major. Not really worried about having perfect lines. I'm not really worried about keeping the painting perfect right now. I'm just trying to lay down the color that will eventually get me to where I want to be. So when you're doing a painting like this, it's not, you have to give yourself a little bit of leeway. Can't be too concerned about, you know, am I being perfect? Am I doing things exactly like it needs to look? Am I staying true to the picture? You know, maybe you're working off of a picture that you're wanting, that you really like. Don't beat yourself up on perfection, because you will eventually end up not liking what you're doing. I mean, I'm speaking from my perspective, but and some folks, you know, strive for that perfection, but I think all too often you can really get tired. If it becomes work, you can get really tired of what you're doing. So don't beat yourself up on it. Another thing about paint is forgiving. You can make a mistake. No big deal. I can fix that. Not a big deal. So don't stress over, you know, being perfect or making something look ideal, especially when you're looking at a picture, because you don't want it to look exactly like that anyway. You know, the reality is you want it to be unique for you. You want it to be unique from your perspective. So there's times where you need to let things, you know, go a little bit different from the idea that you're seeing, or the picture that you're using. You can branch out a little bit, do something not quite the same, and it gives you your unique perspective. So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to make a mistake like that. That's not a big deal. Don't be afraid if something isn't an exact perfect line, because you're going to clean that up. It's not a big deal. You can fix it. That's the beauty of paint. Paint, you can keep working it and keep working it until you get it to that point. So, you know, have fun with it, enjoy it, learn the texture, learn how it feels, learn how they mix and how they work, because you'll come to appreciate the fact that it's a little more forgiving when you're painting. If you're drawing, yes, you're right. You might have to, you know, a line might have to be perfect, because if you erase, someone's going to see, or those marks will be seen. But paint is a lot more forgiving, and you can take your knowledge of art and drawing and apply it. I do that often with my painting, in sketching out some of the background or some of the detail, so that I can have an idea of where I'm going, or where I want to be, or, you know, how far I want to take something. So it makes it a whole lot easier for me to keep up with the painting. Sometimes I do nothing. I put nothing on the background. I just paint what I have in my mind, or I paint what I saw, you know, somewhere, or a picture that I took. And I try not to do any lines or any technique in the background, drawing anything in. In this case I have, because it's a building and it does have a little more distinct lines, and I want to try to be true to that. Anyway, we'll come back to the next part in a minute.